All right, let's go ahead.
Got it.
We are back, Donnie Tuttle. Welcome back to the Positive Side Podcast. Glad you're tuning in. We are back and better than ever. And if you look at my old posts from about, I mean, it feels like forever since I've done a podcast. And it really has been. But I'm getting close to 500,000 downloads. And one of the guys I wanted to bring back on to go out or go over the 500 with a boom was Donnie Tuttle. So one of the people. So Donnie Tuttle, welcome back to the Positive Side Podcast.
Dude, thank you. Thank you for keeping me on the positive side.
Well, of course, it's funny for the people that don't know, and no one would know besides you and me, Donnie. But I called you today. I'm like, Donnie, what's up? How's business? How's life? And I said, wait a minute. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Let's talk about this tonight on the Positive Side Podcast. A couple things we are going to talk about. I just posted a little bit ago. I guess it's been 2 hours. It says, let's get vulnerable. I'm going to have Donnie Tuttle on. We're ask Donnie questions about fighting the negative self-talk that we all struggle with. What does it take to be successful? How do we take a break at the same time, pushing ourselves to be great? And then we're going to go over the review of the questions from John Maxwell's book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. So we have a lot to get to. But more importantly, Donnie Tuttle. Yeah. What's new with Donnie Tuttle? What's going on, brother?
Yeah, sure. Invite Donnie Tuttle on to Let's Get Vulnerable and Naked. So wonderful. Thank you.
You're very welcome, my friend. I'm glad you're here, brother. But, if we go back and some of the most impactful shows I've ever had, and this is why I mentioned the people that I did. You, Adam Walton, Brandon Hanley, my friend Jamie gave me some shit. And I guess, Jamie, you're in that list too. Let's see, Adam,
Jesse Cole?
Brandon Hanley, Jesse Cole. Yeah, Jesse Cole's great.
I need to meet Jesse Cole. He's like one of my favorite people.
He's a legend, isn't he?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I want to marry him. And
he's just so great. He has so much perspective, and he's so, I don't even know how to explain it. Every word he says, I'm like hanging on everything he says, and it just goes right to my soul. And I feel that's one of those guys that I feel when he speaks. To my core, I feel it. I love that dude. So we're gonna get him back on the show too. So that'll be fun as well. But tonight,
surprise him with me. Bring me there, and I'll jump out of the microphone and say, "Surprise! Great? You're really here to meet Donnie."
Surprise! Yeah. Donnie Tuttle's in the house.
Hey, yeah.
Donnie, let's talk. I guess let's go to the first question I talked about, and this is something that's it's a hard question to ask, and hard to actually make reality. But Donnie, this is such a big picture question. What does it take to be successful? It's like so over-encompassing.
Right. Takes what it takes. That's my answer.
Okay, well, what does that mean?
Takes what it takes. Great book by Trevor Moawad, by the way. Rest in peace, rest in power. Here is Thoreau said the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with their song still in them. If you look at the studies by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross about the death and the dying and the top regrets of the people who are at that final stage in life, what they regret most is that they weren't true to themselves, they worked too much, and they didn't connect more with their friends and their family. And
repeat that 3 again, because that's important.
First one is that I guess that the top one is they weren't true to themselves.
Okay.
They worked too much, and they wish they connected with their friends and family more.
Man, that's real talk.
And if you want to define success, why don't we reverse engineer it to the voices of people who are feeling like, dang it, I don't have that. I don't have success.
Okay.
There's a lot of carrots that we're chasing, Jeremy, Todd. And a lot of that comes from the default programming that we're given by the society that we're raised in. How many of us are taking the time to actually define what it is that we want? Right? What is it that I want? I was just talking to a guy a really unique guy who he calls himself the accidental solopreneur. I'll introduce you to him. I think he'd be great for you.
Okay.
And author of a couple books. And he's like, I could have made this big company, but I realized I would be kissing my time freedom goodbye. What I want is boom. And to be bold enough to actually say what it is that you want, I think that's the first step to success, Jeremy. In the realms that you and I come from in coaching, we call that vision. But I think it goes even deeper than vision, because vision sounds, it's like that's one step away from goals. Like, what are your numbers going to be for this quarter, this year, this 5 years? And I think that is a crock of bullcrap. In terms of those things, those invisible weird things that people want to hold us accountable to. I do think goals are helpful. I think they're great. I think vision is better. But I think actually being in touch with what you actually desire is probably a taboo for most. But it really is like I think it's first stage in success. There are a few more that go along with that. I think knowing who you are, I think, is a big one. Again, Jeremy, any of us who have been raised by parents, which is 99.99999% of us, except for those of us who've been raised by wolves, which, by the way, there was an actual kid raised by wolves at one time that they found, a real live, that they based the Jungle Book off of a real kid. It's kind of scary. But all of us who are raised by humans, we have to conform, right, to something that's not us. And it's good. It's good to be a part of things. And also, we can lose identity within the people around us that we want to please and the groups that we want to be a part of. And so I would say knowing really who you are, owning who that is, and even the transformation into something that might be a little bit newer version of who you want to be. I think that's a part of success. Jeremy, I think taking bold action towards the things that you like, from who you are towards what you want. I think bold action, if I were to go to the base root of all success, it's that. And can we do something today that creates a position where we are proud of ourselves in the future? Not did I do the right thing, not did I do the smartest thing, not like, it's not even, none of that. Did I behave like the person that I wish that I was? Is that? Did I believe enough in myself? Did I move towards what I wanted? Was I real about that? So, and we get, like, I think tactics is where all the books are written. Like, here's how to sell, here's how to lead, here's how to manage. And the truth of it is, it's like, that's written for, it's consumed by a large group of people, but most of those are like it's really beneficial only for a small sliver of the audience, of anyone who reads those. And I love reading. I love it. But the reality is that success looks like what you want it to look like. You already are successful. You already are, at least those who are listening to this podcast, are living in the top 0.5% of people in terms of richness, abundance, and wealth that have ever lived on the face of the planet. So, I mean, I don't know.
Well,
are we comparing?
Let me ask you this. It's interesting. I mean, and again, for people listening at home, if you're not writing notes, you should be writing notes. I always, whenever I do any kind of podcast, especially, really with anybody, I always try to get something out of it, because if I'm going to spend my time, not that my time is more important than someone else's time, but I want to get value out of it. So I always take notes and I write these things down. But one of the things I wrote, and this is what goes through my head. What are you doing today to make yourself proud of your future? One of those things that I really struggle with is that I have this negative self-talk, and this will go right into the next conversation we're going to talk about, is, well, I'm almost never happy with my success. That is a blessing and a curse, because then it continues to push me. I get asked all the time, I don't know if you know, I think I told you, I'm getting my real estate license now. I'm halfway through the class. I'm going through the class to get the real estate license.
I've been following the journey.
Yeah, so I got a 79 on my first test. Holla at your boy. I got to get a 75 or above to pass the class. I got 79 on the first one. Big win for me. It gave me a win. But I keep thinking to myself, okay, so when am I doing this to make myself proud because I'm not proud of myself right now and I'm not happy enough? The negative self-talk is so big, but it's also a blessing and a curse where I constantly push myself and I don't give up. Even when I take my test, I say to myself, well, I bombed that, I failed it, even though I passed it, because that negative self-talk is constantly there. So then I want to work even harder to make sure I get a better score in the next one. It's like this wheel that I'm constantly on. And this spills over into business and relationships and my life and my relationship with my kids, that it's like I can't be happy and peaceful with my presence and my current success because it's not enough. And it probably boils down to it's negative self-talk. It's never enough. And I don't know, you hear that story. When I get to this point, when I do this, then I will think this. I've never been able to get to that point where I got here. Now I'll be happy with where I am. When I started in the car business years and years ago, the first week when I was in the car business, I went to my general manager and I told them, I'm going to be a general manager one of these days. I'm going to be the baddest salesperson you've ever had in your entire life. And I promise you I'll get there. I've gotten there. And then I'm like, okay, well, that was cool, but I'm not satisfied enough. I need more. And then that pushes me and stresses me out and wears me out and it allows me to be not present. It affects my sleep. It affects everything in my life because there's constantly something that's there. And maybe it's obviously negative self-talk. There's no question about that. I don't know how to cope with that. I don't know how to deal with that. Is there a fine line to where there should be some negative self-talk to allow myself to push myself? Or I just thought about this. If I eliminate this negative self-talk and allow myself, if I have greatness within, as some podcast guy knows, says it all the time. If I know I have greatness within, isn't that enough to push me? But it hasn't been. That what's pushed me is not settling and not being happy where I'm at. And I struggle with it daily. I struggle with it right now. I'll struggle with it tomorrow. I don't even know how to approach that. How do I start with something how do I attack something like that? I don't know. I don't know even what to say about it.
First off, I appreciate you. I think you sharing stuff like that is actually what makes your podcast one of the most listened to podcasts out there, right? Because you're real. Can we talk about heaven and hell?
Oh, you know it. I love these talks.
All right.
I love it.
So let's just say there is no heaven and there is no hell for just a moment.
Okay.
And that means there is no place that is there where things are better and it's magically wonderful and everything is right in the world and all of the things you ever wanted happily ever after. And if there was, what if you were already living in that right now? So what if you were living in the happily ever after? So I'm just that's a what if. So what if?
Okay.
Because I actually do believe that people torment themselves with a paradise that may or may not exist. And for some people, that paradise is retirement, or it's being married to this person, or it's these different things that we almost idolize. And when you get it, it doesn't scratch the itch, doesn't fulfill what you really hoped it would. The other side, hell, right? This place of torment, I guess, right? So what is that about? Well, let me go into two more terms: Satan and Christ. And again, this isn't this is I'm a Christian, but this isn't these terms are not only Christian centered. I want you to kind of hear beyond that.
Sure.
Okay. Do you know what Satan means?
Like the true definition, I have no idea. You know, accuser.
Accuser.
Okay. I've never heard that definition.
It's literally what the word means in Hebrew. So it means accuser or adversary. Now, maybe there's a physical being walking the face of the planet. Like there's a lot of us, so I don't know. Like I don't like unless he moves faster than Santa Claus. Like I don't know how whatever. The biggest accuser I've ever met lives inside of me. It lives inside of every single one of us. And if we are convinced that we're actually living in a separate place from who we are and where we're going, and if we believe in that lie, is that then living in the place of hell or the place of what some people call separation rather than connection? Another term I would put out there again, for those of you who are if you want to get sick of like religious terms, I'll give you one more: Christ. Right? And Christ doesn't mean to me like the human being that walked the earth 2,000 years ago. Christ means like what we all now bear, which is we all, every single person on the face of the planet, how many billions there are of us, actually are in the image of something beautiful. And Jeremy, to sum it all up and to tie it into a little bit of a bow, anytime that we believe in an accusation that creates anything that causes us to feel like less than, separated, or any of those scenarios, like we're living with a bad influence. I personally believe that we, like psychologists say, there are two stimuli to cause change in behavior, right? Pleasure or pain. Or instead of pleasure, let's sub out love. Love, instead of pain, we'll sub out fear. And I've watched all the documentaries on Michael Jordan. He says that most of what he did was because he was afraid of losing. So I would never deny that these things can bring greatness. I actually think that they can. My question is like to Jordan or to anyone else that has that, is that what you want? If that's what you want, fine. Like that mechanism inside of you served you to help you to get that. If what you said was, dang it, I just wish I could have been happy the whole time, then that is not what you want. And rather than acting according from a fear stimuli, which I think fear keeps us, like it keeps us from running late. It keeps us on time for appointments. Yeah. It's like there's some good reasons for it, but also so does love. And if we can find a love that's bigger than our fear, I find that's where we have places and spaces of celebration in our lives. We're in the moment because we realize that the present is the gift / present, right? The present is a present, and that we are completely driven. But I feel like that most of us are so afraid, especially those of us who are successful, are so afraid to let go of control. So the only way we know how to control ourselves is to utilize fear, guilt, condemnation, shame, so that we will always be motivated towards that next great thing. And so I think we create our own hamster wheel, which is the hell or the purgatory or whatever. And to me, heaven isn't when you die. Heaven is when you step off the hamster wheel and you reckon with who you are, and you're at peace, love, and joy with that whole scenario.
When you're going through that I've never heard it explained that way, but and this is what I do whenever I listen to podcasts, whenever I listen to you speak or anybody else speak. I always I don't really, this sounds funny, I don't really listen to what you're saying. I put myself in what you're saying. So I put myself, like you're talking to me, and how do I actually apply this to my life? And what am I actually going through in my life? So when you said on here, am I pushing myself? This is how I think. Am I pushing myself to prove to others that, oh, Jeremy's never going to be successful. He's short. He's got these bone issues. He talks too much shit. Who does he think he is? And I'm so driven to prove everyone wrong constantly. that that is more powerful in my life than to find something that within myself that I love more than that. Because I push and fight the negative so bad, negative self-talk, maybe a reality that's not there, maybe a reality that is actually there, but who gives a shit what everybody else thinks. But I am so programmed to prove people wrong and say, I told you so, but that never ends. No matter what I do, no matter what point I get to, no matter where I've been in my career, no matter what I've done, it's always been, you're going to fail, you're going to mess up. And I'm like, you know what? I'll show you. But is that the direct, is that the perfect, is that the best area of my focus in my life? And it shows up in relationships and business and everything possible that can show up, and it does. Instead of focusing on this side, what makes me happy and what brings a smile to my face, and what lifestyle do I need and appreciate and love and can be comfortable and not have that fear of proving other people wrong. That to me is it speaks loudly to me, because that's no shit. That's probably exactly what I've been doing my entire life. Now, it has gotten me here to where I am now. I don't need to prove anybody else wrong. Maybe there was a time in my life that I needed that. I needed to say, you know what? I'll prove you wrong. Like, you doubt me and I'll prove you wrong, but I don't need to do that anymore. I'm plenty successful. I've accomplished a lot of things that people haven't accomplished, and I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's more I could do. And and going to get my real estate license was almost like, all right, Jeremy, you've got to this point. What else can you prove people wrong to do? Well, I'll go out and do this now. I'll work full time and go to and take real estate classes just so I can say, not only am I doing this, I'm going to do this because I'm going to prove you wrong again.
But the, like,
But
to me,
it
to
makes
me
no
though, Jeremy,
sense.
well, it does, and it almost creates a need in you to fabricate someone who you have to, like, in other words, like, deep inside that for you to win, you've got to now have someone to fight and to resist. And so, therefore, if you have someone to fight and resist, you thrive. But what happens when no one's around to fight and resist you? You will either not know how to thrive, or probably what happens for most of us, we create someone. We'll create a resistance. So if we don't, if we, like, we'll create a resistance, and usually it's with someone who's a weaker opponent, so that we can,
Yeah.
right? So we can do that, and maybe it did serve you. And all of those things, I don't look at those things like, oh, what a bad thing, because ultimately, like, that was a survival mechanism to protect someone that was super important to you at one point, and that was you.
Yeah.
It's an act of love. It's an act of courage. It was an act of, like, I'm not gonna go down. I'm not gonna die. So, like at some point it was the thing, but then also, don't we hold on to those behaviors and bring them into a stage and a phase where it's not necessary, right? We've talked about the dog that was, you get a dog from a shelter and you raise your hand to pet it or feed it, and maybe it cowers because it has that reflex from what it went through before. And we can totally understand and have a grace and a compassion. And at the same time, we can say, like, that's probably not necessary. But in
Yeah.
some ways, we almost have to treat ourselves like that dog, like we
Yeah.
allow ourselves to grow past that. But that's the way I'm wired. I don't excuse me, I don't believe that there is, like, I don't think it's all bad. There's interesting, back to the Bible. None of what I was saying before really is Bible stuff, other than, like you're not going to find a Christian to believe in almost anything I said earlier, probably. Just like that was a lot of what ifs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But one thing is from the Bible. It says, agree with your adversary quickly while you're on your way. And it's like, for some of us, when we get accused of something, of, you're stupid. For me, it's, you're stupid, right? If I feel like someone's accusing me of being stupid, I will have, like, I'll become a werewolf, dude, or I will shut down. And
That's
and
great.
I'm learning to get past this. Actually, last week I did a speaking event. It wasn't like a lot of people. It was like, I don't know, 30 people or whatever. It's like an online event. And the guy that brought me in, who was a client of mine, also, like, said, "Hey, can I give you some feedback?" And I said, "Yeah." And it wasn't all good. and I loved it. I thanked him for it, and I just remembered how a few years earlier, if I'd gotten the same thing, even a couple years earlier, my ears would be like ringing. I would be like
Sure.
almost dizzy. I wouldn't hear a thing they said,
Yeah.
and I would have this emotional roller coaster of like, they hate me. I'm so stupid. And it's like, it's like, oh well, okay, so I suck, but at least I don't care that I suck. Like I win, you know.
Well, let me ask you this, because, obviously we talk about pushing ourselves. This is one of the other questions I want to ask you was, it's hard for me to shut it off. It's hard for me to, um, someone asked me, I had a conversation today at lunch with a friend of mine. She works at this restaurant and I see her probably once a month. And we started talking about being driven and working and working. She's like, well, Jeremy, I don't want to work. And I said, well, I'm very, she said, I don't want to work like you work because you work all the time and you're constantly doing something. I need a break. And I said, well, I have a break. There's scheduled breaks. They're intentional breaks. But even in my breaks, I don't really take a break. What would you say to someone out there that's saying they're going, going, going? I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so busy. I don't know when I can stop for myself. What would you tell somebody, and maybe some practices for someone to actually slow down, to take a break for themselves mentally? I work on meditation. I work on breathing. This is something so stupid, something so small. Last night I got home after one of my classes and had a load of laundry to do. I throw the load of laundry and it was like 50 minutes to wash, and I'm waiting for this thing to get to the dryer. And I go out and watch an NBA game, and I watched I don't know what game it was, but anyway, so I'm like, well, it's got to be, that laundry's got to be done because I can't go to bed until it's done. I go back and look at the washing machine. It says 16 minutes. I'm like, man, that's a long time. What am I going to do for 16 minutes? My mind's like, so I go out and start doing the dishes, and I put something away. I go back. I swear to God, it was 13 minutes. I'm like, damn it. What the hell do I do now? It was only 3 minutes. So then I go back and I go back and it's in my laundry room. There's a bathroom right there. And I just sit down. I have, not TMI, but I was just sitting on the toilet, not going to the bathroom or nothing, but I was just sitting there for 3 minutes. And I said, damn it, Jeremy, can you just allow yourself it's a timed 3 minutes? Because when it's up, you hear the bell on the washing machine, I can put it in the dryer. Focus on yourself for 3 minutes. And I started breathing. I started doing my breathing exercises. And it's amazing how fast the 3 minutes went. Because then I'm like, damn, it was already over. But it's little things like that I struggle with. So really, all this time I had yesterday, I had 3 minutes that I'd spent to myself. What practices, what do you do? What do you recommend? And I know you coach people all over the world, and I'm sure this topic comes up. How do you help people to slow down, to speed up?
I'm gonna read something that that I'm gonna commit to memorizing by the next time that you and I talk. So so even if you call me within a week, I'll have this memorized.
Yeah, and for the record, if everybody listening, Donnie lives in Florida and I live in Indiana, and I haven't seen Donnie in a few years probably.
Since the
But
Dodgers game, somewhere around that period, right?
yeah, so that's probably been 5 years probably. It's been a long time, but Donnie's one of those people, and I encourage everybody, just side note, is to have people in your life where you can call completely out of the blue, be vulnerable, allow them to be vulnerable, and get positive feedback. Because if you don't have people like that in your life, you're missing out. It's not like sometimes I call Donnie when I got 30 seconds. I just shoot the shit. Hey, what's up? Hey, that was cool. Awesome. Just saying hi. And then sometimes it's an hour and a half phone call where we talk about all kinds of shit. And if you don't have people in your life like that, I promise you probably know somebody that needs that as well. It's just a matter of, again, if we go back to the podcast or being vulnerable, be vulnerable with somebody. And I promise you, they'll be vulnerable with you. And Donnie and I have built this relationship over years now where we know when we need to have a conversation. We know when we can talk. We know we can be vulnerable. We know we can say anything to each other. And to be honest, sometimes it's like Donnie's like, Jeremy, you need to get over yourself. You're full of shit. And then sometimes you're right, Jeremy. And sometimes it's just I need to talk. And Donnie's just there to listen. And it's so important to have people like that in your life. And Donnie, I'm so blessed to have you in my life. And I think about it all the time when I reach out. We play phone tag. There was this is a terrible reference, but DMX, DMX is. DMX said, I may not come when you call, but I'm always on time. I love that line. because it's true. Whenever we need to talk, we always talk. And I know that's a long conversation
Goes
about
both
nothing,
ways.
but I appreciate that. And I appreciate you, my friend.
You got it, brother. Definitely goes both ways. Hey, a weird thing just happened. Like today, I've only checked the clock like 3 or 4 times. Not that I was just wanted to see how like where we were at in our time. I saw but and out of the 5 times I've looked at the clock today that I'm conscious of, 2:22, 3:33, and then 5:55 while you were talking. So
Isn't that great?
I need
That's
to review
awesome.
that and see it. So, um, so this is yeah. And by the way, likewise, it goes both ways. I think without some of the encouragement I got from you a few years ago, I'd still be trapped in a place that actually for me was hell. I wasn't really responding to the design that was inside of me. And I will say, by the way, like just kind of going to your earlier question, I think there's always we're always going to go through parts and points of hollowness and like we have cycles. And to me, there's a value in the reflection point of all of those places. So pain, pleasure, all of it actually offers a new place for us to, um, I believe, just receive a different message. And so, to answer this question, in terms
Yes.
of how to reset, I look at things holistically. There's a guy by the name of James Michener, and by the way, I don't know if he was an axe murderer or did 100 things wrong. I don't really know. I just know this quote, and he says this: "A master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he is working or playing. To him, he's always doing both." And when you ask the question of how do we turn it on, turn it off, like first off, like who says we have to? And so
Mm.
if you want to, then find a way. If you're doing it because someone told you you have to, like I would question that. Do you think Gary Vee turns it off? I don't think he does. I don't want to be Gary Vee, but Gary Vee wants to be Gary Vee, and that's fine. Um, I like to say, look at what you value and place a value on what you value, and create options and opportunities that make that easier or more convenient. Because ultimately, when we're going through this life of trial and success and error and failure and love and joy and all of those things, we ultimately do, especially in our culture, end up at the end of our energy output. We end up at the end of our willpower, and when we end up there, we typically do what's convenient. And so, what I say is, place things around you that you would like to find yourself doing, and you'll find yourself doing those things. So, for me, we have surfboards in our house. I have a paddle board. I need to get another one. Talked about I need to get a ball and some baseball gloves. We never actually, it's not been a thing in our house, but things that say like, hey, when we want to play, we're going to play. In my office, I have notepads. I have a timer. I have doodads. I don't have a list of people I need to be calling, but that's something that would be here. But I have fun stuff here that would say like, oh, I need to send this stack of fake $100 bills to someone. That would be fun. But it's having things in your direct area that if you happen to have done them by accident, you'd be like, oh, that was a happy accident. Like, I didn't plan
Yeah.
that, but heck, that was kind of fun. So I would say like actually being intelligent and strategic about your accidents and putting stuff there. The other thing is, of course, I do believe in breaks. I do believe in planning your time scientifically. You have a GSD time for a couple of hours, which is get stuff done, and you have a an admin time. You have read Win, I think it's called Win by Daniel Pink, and he goes through actual like people have done research on how to be productive, but ultimately like is that why we're here? Are we here to be productive? Or are we here to be human? And what does that even mean, right? And again, back
Yeah.
to what are what are your desires, goals, and dreams and vision? And I think the only person that can decide that is ourself. And if you're smart, you clump around, you find a few other people that are a little bit weird like you, because you're weird.
There's no question about that.
Not just you, whoever's listening is weird.
For sure.
And if you haven't come to terms with your weirdness, that means you haven't looked at the real you in the mirror. That means you are conforming to everything that other people have told you. And I would ask all of the same questions to you again, but it's like, confront the fact that you're weird. Get around a few other people who are weirdos too, and talk about the same things. Want the same. So it's like I think people, there's a social element to it. There's a space element, and I also would say there's a time element. And so plan your time and create borders. I mean, like, no one's going to miss an appointment with other people, but we sure as heck miss appointments with ourselves all the time. Maybe create a few sacred places where you don't miss those. I like to start out in the morning to where I don't exist for anyone in the morning, Jeremy. I don't exist even for my wife or my kids. Definitely not a client. Definitely not someone who wants to text me, DM me, email me. Definitely not. I'm here for me and my creator, and that's my time. And I have to be that before I can be anything else. And I think doing things on your own terms and trusting, taking that permission. Most of us don't feel like we have that permission. We have someone else's agenda we're chasing. And I mean, dude, economy's shifting and changing. People are scared. And then when you get scared, you're going to run and do what you used to do, but you'll do it a lot more. You'll be frenetic. You'll get scared. You'll kill your willpower. You'll get fat. You'll get like
Yeah.
it is the downward spiral
For
of
sure.
all things. And it's like, man, in the midst of that, before you take off, and I get it, like, skip a beat, take a beat and just decide,
Well,
is this what I want to do today?
a couple things that I relate big time with. You mentioned that like you used Gary Vee as an analogy. Sometimes it adds more stress to me telling myself that I need a break. You know what I'm saying? It's like I just got to take a break because
Yeah.
but I know that's what I've been told. I just got to take a break. But sometimes I don't need a break. But I'm like, it stresses me out because I'm like, I just need a break. But do I really need a break? And when I do need a break, I actually take the break because it's subconscious. It's not like intentional. I'm like, okay, I can just chill right now because I got nothing going on. I can just take a break. It almost adds more stress to me, like trying to force myself to take a break, which makes no sense. But
How old are your kids?
Reality. 16, 13, and 11.
All right. Did you ever have to tell any of them to take a break from playing?
Absolutely not. They just sit down. They're just done.
What if your work is your play and your play is what if you love your work so much that it's like play to you?
I do. Actually, I love what I do. I love it. And I love working. I love the challenge. I love helping people. I love helping my employees. I love making people money. I love having fun. I love helping customers out. I really do. I love it. And that's why, I work a lot. It's on my mind, but I don't really consider it all work. I consider it strategy, trying to get better. It's a game and trying to help. And man, after I had a long day today, a lot of stressful meetings. So after the meetings are over, I've got more vision and I feel better about the future and where I'm going to go. It's just it's an everyday struggle. And I think if I go back and recap this and having people in perspective, working on myself and understanding that, it's not easy. But I've got to spend a little bit, like in the mornings, every single morning I listen to a podcast. Every single morning, I don't miss 7 days a week. I turn my car into a classroom. I speak to my important people. I work on my mindset constantly. So maybe that's my break that I need to vent and listen and learn and become better. That's probably in reality, that's probably the best break I got. But I also wrote on here that you mentioned create an appointment with yourself and don't miss it. I tell people all the time, I live by my schedule. If it's not on my schedule, I miss it. And I think that's a great lesson for people out there listening is to schedule time for yourself. If that's important, schedule a break for yourself, put it in your schedule. Because again, like I just said, if it's not on my schedule, I miss it. Schedule it. And when you schedule it, what will end up happening is you'll have other things that will come into the schedule that'll overlap that time. And you have to have the willpower and the common sense and the wherewithal to decline that and just move it around. It's not like you're not like you're gonna miss that appointment forever. You just need to put it in a different spot where there's open time. keeping your schedule is so important. And, we learned that back in the day one. That's like schedule business 101, schedule time for yourself and don't miss it. It's very important. And I don't do that. And I need to get back to doing that. So I'm glad you mentioned that too.
Well, I didn't mention that. I did not. I'm not like a so scheduling is like I think that actually is one of the killers of willpower, Jeremy. I think that so when we overschedule ourselves, schedule ourselves out, whatever, um, we get like the old computers used to say, like, need to restart to defragment your computer,
Yeah.
because it was like
Yeah.
it would take the junk from the last thing into the next thing, and it's like clear the cache. I guess that's what sometimes you have to do, like
Yeah.
on the internet, or and it's like that's what we have to do. That don't take your last meeting into your next meeting and all, and that kind of thing. But I would never, like, if you want to make me not like life, then schedule every hour of my day. Tell me that if I had a 2-hour block, if I decide, like, yeah, business development, but if I want to take a walk, I'll take a walk. And to me, um, it's not always about what's on paper that would be like the highest productive activity. Sometimes it is, like, like if you notice that you're always taking walks and shirking your responsibility, then okay, dude, come on, let's be real.
Sure.
But
Sure.
sometimes, like, the walk is where you receive, like, something clicks in your brain. Suddenly you know everything that you've been looking for, or maybe that's when you reach out to a person that that happened to be on your mind, and suddenly you have a gigantic account. That actually happened to me, like, yesterday.
Oh,
So it's like,
it's exciting. Congrats.
well, I don't like, it's not
I know what you're saying.
giant account. It's potential for that, but it's like, dude, it's like it just but so those, like, I just got done with this thing, man. I had these people. We had a group of us, a 12-week challenge. I had people committing to action towards their goal from their identity, because I believe that everyone's plan should look different according to their identity. And but I helped them to engineer this stuff, man. And what I came up with, and I didn't realize there were these types of activity, but the activity that we all committed to, we actually tracked it with marbles, and it's a consistent activity. But I'm like, man, that's not the only type. Some people, they weren't getting results. I'm like, oh gosh, man, how do I help them? I'm like, we need explosive activity. Like, it's like a call-a-thon, or like something where it's like we're doing the big blast kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like a sales event or whatever. So explosive activities can't be done all the time, because it'd be like running a marathon the day after you finish a marathon. But they can be done. And then there's this, like, third activity that I have so much in my life of value, is like so much of valuable opportunity in my life has come from, and that is inspired action, where you kind of chase a bunny every once in a while, and just kind of see what God does with it. And sometimes it's nothing, and sometimes it's like, oh, that was like a lot bigger than
Yeah.
I could have imagined. But you can't do that if you have every moment scheduled. And
That's a
so
good point.
I'm just a mixed bag in terms of, like, like, common thought of productivity. I don't necessarily, I don't know that I don't know that I take it all with a grain of salt. I think it all works for some people.
For sure. But I think your intent is there to become creative, the best version of yourself. And I agree that the best ideas I've ever had is when I'm driving in the car with no music on. I'm going for a walk. I'm on a bike ride. I'm at the gym. They say a lot of times people have their best ideas when they're in the shower. I mean, obviously, why is that? Because you're not thinking about anything else.
You can't, yeah.
Besides being in the shower. So, it's powerful for sure. Donnie, one of the things I reviewed with you a long time ago was John Maxwell's questions from Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. And I haven't asked you these in a long, long time. And for people listening, you probably go back, Donnie, it's been 4 or 5 years ago since the first time you were on the show. It's been a long time. But you can go back, and I think I asked you these questions originally, but I'm just kind of curious. I don't remember your answers from before, but I find these questions fascinating, and I would like to ask you them once again. So, Donnie Tuttle, question number 1 is, what is the greatest lesson you've ever learned?
Greatest lesson I've ever learned.
Because this has changed a lot for you, my friend. The last
time
we asked this was we were in different spots in life for sure.
The greatest lesson I would say, just personally, like the lesson of the surfer, and that is that it's not all you. Um, you put yourself in the right place and enjoy what you're doing, but ride the wave that you've been given. Um, when you take when you take a step in the direction of what it is that you want, what it is that you want takes a step in the direction of you. And I don't know how to
Mm,
explain it, but come to believe it.
ride the wave. Love that. Question number 2 is, what are you learning now?
What am I learning now? I'm learning how to reinvent myself, evolve, and right now I'm stepping into my personal journey of becoming the top promoter that I know, and that would like I don't know Jesse Cole, so but I know of him. That
He's
dude is a
great.
promoter, but I want like my mission is to be the playful promoter, and so I have 1,001 great inventions, Jeremy, and I'm better at what I do than anyone I've ever met at my specific thing that I do. But there are way too many people who don't know it, so I have to become a better promoter.
I can't wait to see how you promote this podcast. This is gonna be great, Donnie. I can't wait.
uh,
Question number 3 is, how has failure shaped your life?
I would say that for me, the perspective that comes from it is probably the most valuable parts of my life. It's not the parts that I would choose, but like I'm constantly failing, and I feel like if I'm not failing, I'm not even living a genuine life. You'll hear me say this from time to time that if I'm looking back at whatever I was doing a year ago, and if I don't cringe a little bit, that means I've been playing it too safe. And so, um, I like it. It's trying. That's what it is. So it just shows me I'm trying.
It's getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and it's when you were saying that, it's just like a muscle. Like, if you don't fail all the time, when you do fail for the first time, or you don't fail very often, it's like crushing, debilitating. You can't learn from it. It's like, oh my God. But the more you can get up, it's the old saying, like, get knocked down 8 times, stand up 9, whatever the hell the number is. But it's true, man. The more you fail, the easier it gets to fail, and the more doors open. And I'm willing to. My ego is not, years ago it was big, but I don't have an ego. I'll fail everything. I'll try absolutely. You tell me what to do, I'll try it. If it works, great. If not, hey, I learned and I move on. But man, a lot of people can't do that. Failure is the most important thing for me in my entire life. I've been told, that this is hard. You're never going to do this, and I have failed at so many things. But I keep trying. I keep doing things, and eventually things work out. I love failure. I actually, it's one of the most important things in my life. Question number 4, Donnie Tuttle, and I remember who you told me what this was, but who do you know that I should know? I remember who you told me, and I know who it is. You want me to tell you who it is?
Who?
Jim Stryker.
You like Jim Striker, don't you?
He was on my podcast once, and I asked him to do me something. He never did it again. So I love Jim. I love his message, but Jim never followed it back up with me. So Jim, I love you. Follow back up with me, even though it's been 4 years ago, and I haven't forgotten it. But Jim's
Jim's
great. Jim's
Jim's a
great.
man. I love me some Jim
But
Striker.
yeah, that was who you mentioned, and he was on the
Yeah.
show too.
Okay. Good. Yeah, he should be. I think the a few people. So one that you should know, Kyle Draper. He for a while was my coach. He wrote this book called Rethink Everything.
Okay.
You would love Kyle Draper. Positive dude. He just helps people to unleash their identity, their real identity, but to do it through video. He helps real estate agents and oh, you're a real estate agent. Hey, look at there.
Hey.
Real estate agents and mortgage people, but really just to be it's not even about being present on video, but it's more about like learning to be expressive, and to share your message. And he helped me get out of my own way. And I worked with him for about 8 months. We became lords together, and so yeah, in
Pretty cool.
Scotland.
All right.
Yep, yep, there you go. You need to meet Kyle Draper.
You have to send me his contact info. I'd love to reach out to him.
Yep.
Question number 5 is, what have you read that I should read?
Gosh. Jeremy, I listened to. I will recommend this book. It's simple, it's easy, it's quick, and goes along with what you're, rethink everything. I listen to the majority of my books now. So, if you haven't read Jesse Cole's books, I'm a huge fan.
You are a big fan of Jesse Cole, aren't you?
So, dude, yeah, you got like yeah, yes.
This is so good. I love this.
He is. I just finished his book. And I'm thinking about listening to it again, but Fans First
Yeah.
is his recent one. Love it. Let's see, the Untethered Soul is a fun one, just to kind of get rid of some of those old programs. I like, there's one called the Feck Perfection.
Oh, okay.
Perfection. So like kind of getting out of your way and being on fire for it. Essentialism by Ian McCowan. Essentialism. He also wrote something called there's one, the other one is one I really like. I'm listening to Essentialism, but the one I really like is the one that says there's something about make it easy. I can't remember what it is. It's actually better. So I'm a serial listener reader, so I've got a lot. Oh, hey. Sell Anywhere, Jeremy Todd.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me promote my book. Sell
Please
Anywhere.
do.
Yeah, actually go get it on Audible. It's read by someone else. Takes about 2.5 hours. It's a great plane flight.
It's easy. Easy money there.
There you go.
Question number 6 for Donnie Tuttle is, Donnie, what have you done that I should do?
Jeremy Todd, when you're down here, we're gonna go body surfing. We're gonna get some fins on you, and we are going to hopefully the waves are 2 feet or better. I'll get some clean waves, and
Okay.
and we will do body surfing. Is you're making love with the ocean, dude. You're not fighting it, and it's just like you put a pair of fins on your feet. You're indestructible. It doesn't matter about the rip currents or any of those things. You can do anything, and it's bliss. So real body surfing, not the stuff that old people and kids do. I mean, like, it's out in the waves next to the.
It would have to be in the summer because I don't get in the water unless it's like super warm. I hate cold water. I hate everything cold. Hate's a strong word, I know, but that is my pet peeve. It's cold. Why I live in northern Indiana, I still have no idea. But it's getting nice now. But if it's warm, I will come down. Maybe in the summer, July, August. I need to make a trip down and see it for sure. And Donnie, the final question is, Donnie, how can I add value to you?
Jeremy Todd, you can push me and provoke me, man, to being that promoter. That's something that I have my thermostat, and it turns off whenever I'm happy with whatever, and I'm in a place to where business is coming back in again. I mean, I could always use more, but it's like business is coming back in again, and at the same time, in the past, I have settled in and become okay with like just kind of being unknown. And it's not about me being known or not known. Really, what this is about people hearing the message that it doesn't matter who they are or where they're at. They're closer to what they want than they think they are. That they have a purpose and they have unique abilities to create what it is that they want from what it is that they have, and that those are things that we can step into our joyful life now. That heaven's now. It's not retirement. It's not when we die. It's none of those things. It's like we can do those things now. So you can help me to stay the course of being a playful promoter. That's what you can do.
Well, the good thing about me, Donnie, is I'm like that. Was that old saying? Like, I'm that bad nickel that keeps turning up. You're stuck with me for life, Donnie Tuttle. I'm not going anywhere. You're with me forever and ever and ever. And I'm gonna hold you accountable to again promote this podcast. It's gonna be great. And I'm gonna introduce you to my boy Jesse Cole. I'm gonna get Jesse on the podcast here soon.
I want to help interview him. Bring me on. That's what you can do. I'm gonna show up on your podcast, and I want to ask half the questions. It'd be a 3-way podcast.
I could probably do that. Jesse, when he helped me write my book, so.
What?
Well, yeah, that's who I hired to write my book. I love Jesse Cole.
Wait, are we saying, is it Jesse Cole of the Savannah Bananas?
Oh no, different Jesse Cole then.
Okay, I don't know that Jesse Cole, but maybe I should meet him then. Yeah,
you should definitely know the Jesse Cole, and you can ask him questions too because he's brilliant and I love him to death. And I'm gonna get him on the show too. You gotta listen to Jesse Cole.
Okay, but other Jesse Cole, if you hear this, you know, yellow is my favorite color, so it is.
Well, I'm sure he will hear this because this is going to blow up all over the world, Donnie. So I'm not concerned about that at all. Donnie, tell the galaxy where they can find you.
Oh man, on all the social media stuff, Jeremy, you can Google me, and you're pretty much only going to get me. So
Oh, that's
Donnie
nice.
with an I-E Tuttle. Yep, I was competing with the country singer of Donnie Tuttle for a little while. I'm not dead, so it's not the obituaries. Okay, I've been married for almost 30 years, so it's not the guy that was recently married. It is Donnie Tuttle. You can find me on DonnieTuttle.com and their stuff. YouTube, Jeremy. I'm really pushing into growing that YouTube. I'm seeking 1,000 subs. I'm at 271, 272, something like that. And so you can
It's a
find me
big
on
number.
YouTube. I put a lot of stuff out on YouTube, and I'm having so much fun there. So definitely connect with me there. But
Well, for sure, I'll
any
connect. I think you and I are
right.
connected there already, and I love. I show our the staff here at the gig. I show them videos of you constantly, and we've watched many of your videos, and they are great. They're awesome. So I'll definitely subscribe to you and anybody out there listening around the galaxy. Make sure you find Donnie Tuttle. Subscribe to him if you're looking for a coach too. Donnie's coaching people too, and he's changing lives left and right. And I consider Donnie one of my coaches, and he's changed my life, and I know he'll change yours as well. So, for everybody out there, if you find my podcast, subscribe, like, share this podcast, leave those 5-star reviews, allows other people to find the show. But I say it in every single episode, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You've got greatness within. Like always, this is the positive side.